If you want to understand the payment gateway, actually the API gateway, not a payment gateway, then you need to understand this scenario. Let's say you are building an e-commerce type application, your organization is very huge. You can consider like a Shopify. Shopify will have hundreds of microservices. What if they don't have API gateway? Let's say they also have a mobile application, they also have a web application. So product service is deployed on this URL, payment api.productservice.com slash products slash create. So mobile application wants to consume some resources to the product service. Let's say user is admin is trying to create a new product from the mobile application. He has to make the post API request to the product service. So the key point is productservice.com, right? We also have a, let's say, web application. Web application is trying to consume resources from the order service. So it is sending request to the orders API endpoint. Here, let's say order is completed, so user needs to make the payment. So web application is making API request to the payment service. So the URL is api.paymentservice.com. This is a point. So how can you manage that? You will have multiples of hundreds of different API URLs for every request, for every service. That would be very hard to manage. You can implement the same stuff with API gateway. It also would be hard to manage authentication in product service. You need to implement authentication here, then you need to implement authentication here, then you need to implement authentication and authorization here. Why don't we have a single entry point for all the requests? What we will do, we will create an API gateway here. Here you can say API gateway. So the request will comes to here, and then it will be moved forward. So let me draw that for you. Let's do that. So request will come to API gateway. This time we will not have three multiple routes, right? So the API gateway will forward this request to appropriate microservice, right? This is the concept of API gateway. You can implement rate limiting, you can implement authentication here. This will be our authentication mechanism will be placed here. We don't need to worry about authentication here. So mobile application will send request to API gateway. Then API gateway consider, hey, what would be the appropriate service for this request, right? This time we will not have product service. This time we will have, you can say, let's say API gateway or something like that. API dot gateway gateway.com slash products slash orders. That is it. This is it. It's the same case for orders. To access the orders or to create the orders API. Similarly for the payments, instead of payment service, we will have gateway.com slash payments. So this time is easy. If you will have 100 plus microservices, you can say payments. If you have 100 plus microservices, we will have single entry point, the single URL to forward the request to the appropriate service. So this is the product. So product will be goes to this product service. In API gateway orders will be proxied or transferred to order service. Payments will be transferred to payment service, right? This is the concept of API gateway. Let's explore some of the frameworks, tools to build API gateway in Node.js. I found the Express Gateway in the market, Kong and Tyke. You can check the Express Gateway documentation. This is a simple, lightweight free open source API gateway. If you are familiar with Express, you can work very easily. So we're gonna use Express Gateway because it's easy to understand API Gateway for beginners. When you understand the basic concepts or API Gateway concept, then you can move on to Kong and Tyke. Tyke is also a lightweight, like production ready API gateway. A lot of companies are using Kong, not a Tyke. A lot of companies are using Kong for API gateway. You can see the features, platform, and couple of pricing. The Tyke is also an advanced level API gateway. A lot of companies are using Tyke in production. You can look at Tyke versus Kong. These are all the features of Tyke. You can look at that. But if you understand the basic concept of API gateway, then you can use Tyke. If you want to learn more about Tyke, you can send me a message. I can create a separate course for Tyke and Kong. Right now, we're going to use Express Gateway to understand the basic concepts of API Gateway. In this module, you're going to learn how to implement the request routing using Express Gateway. I'm going to teach you what is request routing and why do we need that. Why does it exist in API Gateway frameworks? Then we will move to rate limiting, authentication, caching, monitoring, and logging. Now you're going to learn how to create a project using Express Gateway. We're going to set up the Express Gateway. You need to install this Express Gateway globally on your machine. I already installed it. Sudo, if you're using Windows, you don't need to write sudo npm install -c Express Gateway. Please install Express Gateway globally on my machine. And then you can use this command to create a new Express Gateway project. Let's do that. Express Gateway create. You gotta run this command. Actually, make sure you are in your directory. So let's do that again. What should be the name of your gateway? I can use ecom gateway. You can choose any name. Let's start with a basic version, getting started with Express Gateway. It will take some time to install a couple of dependencies. Now you can see my dependencies have been installed. Let's go to the gateway, cd ecom gateway, and I'm going to open this project to my VS Code editor to see the file structure of this project. So you will have server.js, package.json file, and you will have config folder. This is system level configuration. This is gateway level configuration. You can specify your API routes, request routing here. We'll talk about that. And then you will have models. I'll teach you what are these, what are the benefits or what are the features of these models. And you can use this command to run the gateway server. So you can see the message, gateway server listening on port 8080. Our admin server is listening on port 9876. We'll talk more about in the next videos. So we successfully set up Express Gateway project. Let's start implementing this API gateway. The goal of the API gateway is to forward the traffic to product service. This is how you will define your host name, your port, and your API URL. So mobile application will send request to the API gateway, and then API gateway forward the request to appropriate service. So we're gonna implement this feature. Before implementing this feature, make sure we have a backend server is running. What do I mean by backend servers? We don't have services for products, payments, and orders. Let's create some projects. What I can do, I can create servers, node servers, because each microservice runs on separate thread, separate process. So npm install, not a npm. Let's make the directory services. I will place all my microservices here inside this services folder. You can also create a separate project for microservice in real world application. I just want to make you in a simple example. Let's explain API gateway in a simple example. So create new products directory. This is called products microservice. Make sure you are in your services directory and make dir services / orders. So we have the orders, make dir services directory payments. So we have 3 microservices. Let's set up the node server for all of them. Let's first, we're gonna set the app.js file. Open the project in, open the product service in VS Code terminal. Let's init the package.json file. And we need to install Express. I'm gonna copy the same process for other microservices. So we have installed Express in this product service. We also need to install Express in payments. npm install Express. Let's install for orders. npm install Express. Let's start building the web server for products. I'm sure you know how to create the Express servers. So let's create the application, Express application. I'm gonna define some routes. I'm using this route for demo purpose only, /products. I'm gonna create a get route. You can create post, put, or delete anything. It's gonna return the message product fetch, and we need to run the this product server on a port, specific port, process.env. You can say port, otherwise we will have 3000. Let's call the listen method. You can say port, and I can log the message. I can say product service is running at port. Let's define the port. So I can copy the same stuff for payments. This time we need to set the different port for the payment. I can say payment made successfully. Payment made successfully, payments /order, order ID. I can say payment service is running at port. let's do the same stuff for orders. Orders fetched, order service. Let's use the different port. If you want, you can also do the numbering in this way. This is my first, this is my second orders, and this is my third service. Now we need to run all of the server for the products. Make sure I defined the script. I did not define that. Start, you can say node app.js. I can copy the same script for other services. Copy that, and let's do that for payments. npm start. Now product service. Oh, what is the issue? Oh, I think I gotta use the different ports. Let's go with 4000, 4002, and 4001, or 400, 4001, and then 4002. Now it looks good. So product service is running at port 4000. npm start, order service, and payment service is running at port 4002. You can also set the host name, but that looks good. Now our goal is to implement this functionality, this one. So our web application will not send direct request to the order service. It will send request to the API gateway, and then API gateway will forward that request to the order service. Let's do that. If you open your gateway config.yaml file, you will see the HTTP in the port. This is our API gateway port. When you start node server in the root directory, this one, the API gateway will be running at port 8080. Or you can do npm start. Yeah, both are the same, but just for the easiest purpose. And this one is for the admin port, admin related stuff. We'll talk about the admin later. This is where you will define your API endpoints. By default, Express Gateway works with two endpoints, API gateway endpoints, this one. So what we gotta do, we gotta define these routes in the API endpoints. So we will have these routes /product/service here in the service endpoints. And Nest.js also have a pipelines and policies. These are policies supported in the Express Gateway, or auth proxy, log, key auth, expression. We're going to use a proxy. Express Gateway also provides the pipelines. Pipelines are nothing more. It's just like policies are running in specific order. Pipelines means please run the first policy, then run the second policy, and then run the third policy. So you can define your these type of policies in the pipeline, right? Course, rate limiter, log, auth2, key auth, basic, and the proxy. So when you define each policy, let's say I pick the proxy policy. So each policy will have action and a condition. Conditions are optional, but action is mandatory. Action is required. I know it's hard to understand this right now. Let's implement that. Then you will get some know more about how I implemented that. First, we need to proxy that. Make sure our goal is to implement this one, right? This one. So, hey, let's define the API endpoints for the API gateway. The host should be localhost. If you are running in production ready, you should define your production related host. Should be API dot your ecom gateway.com, something like that. And you can define the paths. It's an array. I think it's an array. Let me yeah, you should define methods in this way. These methods are supported. It's a string and paths. Make sure they have implemented the auto reloading. When I save the application, it will be reloaded automatically. So products, it also works with wildcard. This one, yeah, this one slash products. Yes, it also works with wildcard. If you work with Express, then you know when I send request, when mobile application send request to slash products endpoint, so API gateway will consider, hey, oh, I got it, you are sending request to the product service, so it will forward that request to the product service. So I can copy the same stuff for I can copy the same stuff for payments, orders, copy the same stuff for payments. Make sure I gotta change that. So let's send the API request. I can create the file rest.http. To send the API request, you can send using Postman, but I am using a different REST client extension that allows me to send the API request from the VS Code editor. All I need to create an HTTP file. Here you will define the comment, get products, get endpoint, localhost colon 8080 and products. You will not define your products API endpoint like 4000. You will not do that. To access the order, you will not do 4001. You will not do 4002. All you gotta use 8080. Let's send the request. I think I got nothing, not found. I found the issue. So we defined the routes for API gateway, but we did not specify the service endpoints. Now it's time to add the service endpoints. Yeah, I can copy that. This one. For service endpoints, you can do that. Product service, my product service is running on 4000. Let's use that. My orders, I can say service is running at 4001, I believe. Yep. For the payment service, payment service is running on 4002. It is automatically reloaded. Let's try to test it again. I still get not found. Okay. So we need to define the proxy here. Proxy policy for all these endpoints: product service, order service, and payment service. We're gonna implement this feature, proxy, route request forwarding. So what I can do, I can copy that pipelines. This is my default policy. What I can do, copy, instead of default I can say products. Yeah, this should be policies, pipelines, API endpoints. Let me copy that and paste it here. It should be products. Let's provide this endpoint, this one. I'm going to copy that products. Let's provide the policy. We're going to use the same policy, proxy policy. Instead of service HTTP bin endpoint, we got to use our product service. So let me copy that. So change origin means if you are running your microservice on different origin, but right now we have a same origin for products, orders, and my payments. Maybe this one is running on a different domain. Then this property helps change origin true. Let's copy the same stuff for orders and order service. I'm gonna copy that and paste it here. Please follow the same syntax for copying payments, and I can call it payments, and here I will have payments service, payment service. Yes. Make sure to be consistent. I'm gonna use payment service. So everything is good so far. Awesome. So we can access the products route from the API gateway. Let's access the payments or orders. Get orders. Orders and payments. And the order number. Payment made successfully, orders fetched successfully. Congratulations, you have learned the most fundamental or important concept of API gateway, which is request routing. Now you can understand this. Now you are started getting understanding this diagram, the main purpose of API gateway. And API gateway have a pipelines. Pipelines are nothing more just a fancy way to run policies in a specific order. Policies, so first it runs this policy, this one, this one, this one, and this one. When request comes, first it checks default, then products, then orders, then payments. So you can define multiple policy. You can define multiple policy, like just like I mentioned, codes, log. We're gonna use all of them. Key auth, proxy. We use that. We will also use the rate limiter policy. Now we're gonna implement the rate limiting in our application. Rate limiting means you can prevent user to do too many requests in a specific time period. Let's say a user can make 10 requests in 2 minutes interval. If user is trying to make 11th request in 2 minutes, our server will respond too many requests. Please wait for 2 minutes. So it helps to improve the performance. Your server will not down. If attackers are attacking on your website by sending too many requests, your rate limiter will be your rate limiter will block these users. So it can also help us to prevent server overload issue. Let's say we can implement rate limiting on a specific host name. You can implement rate limit on specific IP. You can also implement rate limit on specific user. If there is a user has hostname example.com, he's sending request to the server. He's trying to send 11th request in 2 minutes. He will be blocked for 2 minutes. Like our server will send, hey, too many requests, please wait. The same case, if another user with another example.com hostname will send the request to the server, when he is going to send the 11th request, our server will send the error back. So we're going to implement this rate limiter. I think I did not open my project. Let's open that. Ecom gateway. So there is a policy for a rate limiter. You gotta use that. So policy in order does matter in policies. Let's say I'm gonna implement rate limiter on orders. First we need to add the rate limiter. Here I will have the action. Let's define the max limit. Here is the max, the number of request, the maximum number of request, window ms. I'm gonna set the 12. These are 120,000 milliseconds. You can convert milliseconds to seconds. So it's a 120 seconds in 2 minutes, actually 2 minutes. And you gotta apply rate limit criteria. Here you can set the rate limiting on the based on request host name or on the specific IP or the specific user ID. I'm gonna use specific host name, request.hostname. That's it. For more detailed document, you can review the documentation, rate limit by authenticated users. You can also do that. Rate limited on specific IP with this pattern, something like that. Now it's time to test our application. Let's run the server, our API gateway, and then I have to start all of my backend servers. npm start order service, npm start. Actually I applied rate limiting on order service. Let's test that. So I'm gonna send the 10th request in 2 minutes for the orders. Let's see what will happen. Second request, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 7th, 8th, 9th, and I'm gonna start getting this error back. Hey, too many requests, please try again later. Too many requests, you can see too many requests. Now it started giving too many requests. Please try again. I have to wait for 2 minutes to access this API endpoint. This is called the rate limiting. Now you're going to learn how to implement the logging feature. We are on the monitoring and logging module. You can also log the request URL if you have worked with Morgan in Express, Morgan is a middleware in Express to log the request URL for debugging purpose. So you can see what requests are incoming to the gateway, what let's say mobile application is sending request to the API gateway, but you are not sure which API request API gateway received. You can log the request URL. So we need a policy. Express Gateway provides a separate policy for logging. I can do that on the same orders module. Make sure order does matter in policy. So I can copy that. The log policy. You need an action, this one. Its condition is an optional, so we don't need any conditional property. Here you can follow the ES6 syntax just like here I followed, or you can do in a double quotes or single quotes, however you want to do. I want to access, this is the request object properties from the express.js request.method request.original URL. Our gateway project has reloaded. Now we need to test that. So I'm gonna send the API request for the orders. It should log a URL. You can see that get/orders. We logged the HTTP method in the URL. You can see again. That is amazing. So we applied logger on orders API endpoint. So you have learned how to implement request routing, rate limiting, and the logging.